You may be sabotaging your own wealth every single day without even realizing it. And the worst part, it's not a lack of money, luck, or opportunity. According to Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men in history, the greatest enemy of wealth is inside your own mind. Today, you're going to discover exactly what is pushing money away from your life and how to change it. Andrew Carnegie rose from extreme poverty to build an empire. But what's most impressive wasn't the money he made. It was what he understood about how people lose money before they even earn it. And if you don't fix this, it doesn't matter how much you earn, you'll always end up in the same place. The first mistake is simple but devastating. Scarcity thinking. When you believe money is hard to get, that only a few people can achieve it, that it's not for you, you start to act small. You avoid risks. You don't invest in yourself. You accept less than you deserve. Andrew Carnegie used to say that a mind conditioned to poverty cannot recognize opportunities. It's not that they don't exist. You simply don't see them. Now, pay close attention, because this is what truly destroys your prosperity. Procrastination. You delay decisions that could change your life. Fear of judgment. You stop yourself because you're afraid of what others will think. Indecision. People who prosper decide quickly. Others stay stuck. The wrong environment. If you're surrounded by people who complain about money, you'll think the same way. Wealth doesn't start in your bank account. It starts in your mindset and your environment. Now here's the turning point. You don't need more money. You need a new way of thinking. Take full responsibility. Seek knowledge constantly. Make faster decisions. Surround yourself with people who are growing. And most importantly, start before you feel ready. Most people wait for the right moment, and that moment never comes. If Andrew Carnegie were here today, he wouldn't ask how much money you have. He would ask, are you thinking like someone who attracts wealth or someone who repels it? Because in the end, you don't receive what you want. You receive what your mind allows. If this made sense to you, comment below which of these mistakes you realize you're making. And keep evolving, because changing your mind is the first step to changing your reality. And there's something even deeper that almost no one notices. You don't lose money only because of your actions. You lose money because of your invisible patterns. The way you talk about money, the way you react when you earn more, the way you feel when you see others succeed. If deep down you believe that wealth is something negative, or that wealthy people are different from you, your brain will do everything it can to keep you away from it, because it always seeks consistency with what you believe. Now think about this honestly. How many times have you had an opportunity, but didn't feel ready? How many times have you started something, but stopped halfway? How many times have you doubted yourself, even though you were capable? That's not a lack of talent. It's a mental pattern. Andrew Carnegie believed that success begins with an internal decision, the decision to no longer accept a limited life. And that decision changes everything. Because when you truly decide, you stop negotiating with your own growth. You stop sabotaging yourself. You stop waiting for validation. And here's something that might make you uncomfortable, but needs to be said. As long as you stay comfortable, you will stay in the same place. Growth requires discomfort. It requires doing things you haven't mastered yet. It requires making mistakes. It requires continuing even when it doesn't seem to be working. But that is exactly what separates those who prosper from those who only watch. Now, here's a practical shift you can start today. Stop focusing only on making money and start focusing on becoming someone who creates value. Money is a consequence. The more value you deliver, the more money finds you. This was one of the principles that built Carnegie's fortune. And there's more. If you don't control your mind, someone else will control it for you. Social media, opinions, collective fear, all of it shapes your decisions without you realizing it. So protect your mind. Choose better what you consume. Choose better who you spend time with. Choose better what you believe. At the end of the day, wealth is not an event. It's a process. And that process begins when you take control of your own story. So now I'll ask you a direct question. Will you keep repeating the same patterns? Or will you start building a new reality? The decision is yours. And it starts now. And this is where most people fail without realizing it. They want high-level results with low-level behaviors. They want prosperity, but keep making impulsive decisions. They want financial freedom, but can't stay consistent for weeks. They want growth, but avoid discomfort. Andrew Carnegie operated on a different standard. He understood that wealth is not built in moments of inspiration. It's built through repeated patterns. And this is exactly where money starts to move away from you, in the repetition of wrong habits. Small, constant expenses. Small daily distractions. Small, poorly thought-out decisions. None of this seems serious on its own. But accumulated, it destroys any potential for growth. Carnegie knew that the cumulative effect is a silent force. If you improve 1% every day, your trajectory changes completely. If you decline 1% every day, you won't even notice when you're already far from what you could have been. And most people are slowly declining without realizing it. Another critical factor that pushes money away is the lack of total responsibility. As long as you blame the government, the economy, the market, your family, or any external factor, you lose power. Carnegie didn't waste time blaming. He took full control of his own path. That doesn't mean ignoring difficulties. It means deciding that, despite them, you will grow. Because the moment you take full responsibility, you also take control. And money respects control. There's also a silent mistake that almost no one notices. Confusing movement with progress. You can be busy all day and still not be moving forward financially. Answering messages. Consuming content. Starting projects and not finishing them. Planning without executing. All of this creates the feeling of productivity, but generates no real results. Carnegie focused on actions that created real impact. Production. Efficiency. Expansion. Measurable results. If it doesn't generate results, it's not a priority. Another behavior that pushes money away is the inability to delay gratification. This is one of the clearest differences between those who build wealth and those who remain stuck. A person sees money and wants to spend it. They want immediate pleasure. They want to validate status. Carnegie saw money as a tool. He didn't ask, "What can this buy?" He asked, "What can this become?" That shift in perspective completely changes your relationship with money. Because those who consume today give up multiplying tomorrow. Another powerful factor is the lack of standards. If your discipline depends on your mood, you will never build anything solid. One day you're focused, the next, distracted, then unmotivated. Carnegie operated with standards. Regardless of his emotional state, he maintained execution. And that creates predictability. And predictability generates growth. Money respects consistency, not short bursts of intensity. There's also the trap of comparison. Comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. Comparing your reality to an edited version of the internet. Comparing your journey to someone in a completely different context. This creates anxiety, bad decisions, and abandoned strategies. Carnegie didn't compete with everyone. He competed with his own standard. He wanted to be better today than he was yesterday. And that creates real evolution. Another invisible mistake is ignoring leverage. Many people try to grow only through their own effort. More hours, more work, more exhaustion. But there's a physical limit to that. Carnegie understood leverage. Machines, systems, people, processes. He built structures that produced more than he alone ever could. Today, that translates into technology, automation, teams, and digital assets. If you depend only on your time, your growth is limited. Money respects scale. Another factor that pushes money away is a lack of clarity. If you don't know exactly where you want to go, any path will seem enough. And that creates dispersion. Carnegie had clarity. He knew the industry he wanted to dominate. He knew the type of structure he wanted to build. He knew where he wanted to go. Clarity reduces mistakes. Clarity increases speed. Clarity increases results. And perhaps one of the most overlooked points: lack of strategic patience. People want fast results, but real building takes time. Months of invisible effort, years of consistency, decades of growth. Carnegie didn't build wealth in weeks. He built systems that matured over time, and that requires patience with direction. It's not about waiting passively. It's about moving forward without immediate results, knowing they will come. Now, put all of this together: lack of focus, lack of discipline, lack of vision, lack of control, lack of patience, lack of strategy. All of this doesn't just prevent money from growing. It pushes money away, because money seeks organized, structured, predictable, and intelligent environments, and avoids chaotic, impulsive, and disorganized ones. So the question becomes even more direct. If money were a person, would it choose to stay with you? Would it trust you to grow? Or would it leave at the first opportunity? Andrew Carnegie became someone money could trust. He demonstrated the ability to multiply, protect, and expand resources. And because of that, money stayed. And it grew. And it returned even bigger. Now, the most important point of all: you don't need to wait for more money to start acting differently. You need to act differently so that more money comes. That's the inversion that changes everything. You don't start big to think big. You think big to become big. You don't earn more to become disciplined. You become disciplined to earn more. You don't invest when there's leftover money. You create leftover money to invest. And this change starts now. In small decisions. In silent habits. In the way you think, act, and react. Because in the end, either you build a system that attracts money, or you maintain patterns that push it away. And the most dangerous part is that this happens every single day, without you even realizing it. Now the decision is in your hands. Keep operating on autopilot, or start operating with strategic awareness. Because the moment you see this, you can no longer ignore it. And maybe this is exactly what was missing to completely change your financial destiny.
And from this point on, everything becomes even more serious. Because once you understand that you are pushing money away, there's no going back to ignorance. Now it is a choice. And most people, even after understanding all of this, continue in the same path. Why? Because real change requires disruption. Disruption of habits. Disruption of environment. Disruption of identity. Andrew Carnegie didn't just learn new things. He abandoned old versions of himself. And that's what almost no one is willing to do. People want to grow, without leaving anything behind. They want to evolve, without giving up old behaviors. But that's impossible. You don't build a new destiny with the same mindset that created your current one. And here is a critical point. Every financial level requires a new version of you. What brought you here is not what will take you to the next level. If you keep thinking the same, deciding the same, and acting the same, the result will be the same. Carnegie constantly reinvented himself. When he mastered one level, he didn't settle. He raised the standard. He fought bigger. He took on more responsibility. He made more complex decisions. And that creates continuous evolution. Now think about your reality. Are you evolving the way you think about money? Or just trying to earn more by doing the same things? Because there is a limit to growth without transformation. Another factor that pushes money away is lack of discernment. Not every opportunity is a good opportunity. But those without clarity accept anything. Directionless projects. Unanalyzed partnerships. Emotion-based decisions. Carnegie was selective. Reanalyzed scenario, potential, risk, and return. He said no more often than yes. And that protected his growth. Money respects those who know how to choose. Another silent factor, lack of depth. Today, people know a little about everything, and a lot about nothing. Superficiality does not generate high value. Carnegie went deep. He understood the industry, costs, production, logistics, competition. He was just a participant. He was a specialist. And specialists capture more value. If you want money to respect you, you need to master something. Not just know it. Master it. Another invisible mistake is living in short-term emotion. Making decisions based on how you feel today. If you're excited, you act. If you're motivated, you stop. If you're afraid, you retreat. This destroys any consistency. Carnegie operated with long-term logic. He didn't change strategy because of momentary emotion. He trusted the process. And that creates stability. Money respects those who don't swing with every wind. Now, something even deeper. You might be sabotaging your growth from conscious identity. If deep down you believe that money is hard. Or that wealth is for you. Or that people who earn a lot are just lucky. Your actions will reflect that. Even without you realizing it. Carnegie believed that growth was built. He didn't see himself as limited. He saw himself as evolving. And that changes behavior. Because you always act according to who you believe you are. Another factor that pushes money away is the absence of high standards. If you accept any result, you remain average. Carnegie did not accept mediocrity. He pursued maximum efficiency. Cost reduction. Continuous improvement. He aimed for excellence. And excellence attracts results. Now, pay attention to this. Money is not only earned. It is sustained through behavior. You might even grow. But without structure, you fall back. And many people live this cycle. They earn more. They lose organization. They lose money. They start over. That's not bad luck. That's a pattern. Carnegie broke that cycle. He created consistency. And consistency creates predictability. And predictability creates sustainable growth. Now, the most honest question you can ask yourself is: if continue being exactly who I am today, will my financial life improve or repeat? Because the future is not a mystery. It is a consequence. And maybe, right now, you're realizing something important. The problem was never just money. It was behavior. It was mindset. It was lack of structure. And that's good news. Because all of this can be changed. Through decision. Through awareness. Through action. Andrew Carnegie was not born ready. He built himself. And you can do the same. But not with superficial intention. With real commitment to study more. To act with more strategy. To control impulses. To develop discipline. To think long term. To build, not just consume. Because the moment you start doing this, something changes. Money stops escaping. It begins to stay. Then, it begins to grow. And then, it begins to multiply. But this doesn't happen by luck. It happens because you become someone capable of sustaining that growth. And it all starts with a simple, but hard decision. Stop pushing money away. And start becoming someone it respects. And the final question is inevitable. Will you keep operating on autopilot? Or will you take control of your path starting now?
And now we arrive at the most decisive point of all. Because after all of this, you're no longer lacking information. What's missing is a decision. Most people will hear all of this and agree, feel impacted, and continue exactly the same. Not because they didn't understand, but because they didn't decide to change. Andrew Carnegie didn't have access to more information than you have today. What he had was something much rarer, a non-negotiable decision. He decided he would not live a limited life. He decided he would learn whatever was necessary. He decided he would endure the process. He decided he would become someone prepared. And that word, decision, is the turning point. Because as long as you treat change as an option, it never happens. When you treat it as a commitment, it becomes inevitable. Now understand this with absolute clarity. You don't need to change everything at once, but you do need to start, and start the right way. Not with momentary motivation, but with structure. From today on, your decisions must reflect who you want to become. If you want to grow financially, You need to stop consuming without awareness. You need to start controlling your money with precision. You need to invest before you spend. You need to study until you understand the game. You need to develop skills the market values. You need to stop looking for shortcuts and start building a foundation. And above all, you need to stop negotiating with your own goals. Because every time you choose what is easy instead of what is necessary, you reinforce the pattern that keeps you in the same place. Carnegie wasn't perfect, but he was consistent. And consistency beats intensity. It's not what you do in a single day that changes your life. It's what you repeat for years. Now imagine this. 1 year of better decisions. 2 years of discipline. 5 years of focus. 10 years of building. Your life becomes unrecognizable. And not by luck, by structure. And perhaps the biggest mistake you could make after this video is to think this is just inspiration. This is not about feeling motivated. It's about seeing reality. Either you build a system that attracts money, or you maintain a pattern that pushes it away. There is no middle ground. And from the moment you understand this, you can no longer act the same way. So before you leave, do something simple but powerful. Be honest with yourself. What is the main behavior that is pushing money away from your life today? Is it lack of discipline? Lack of control? Lack of focus? Lack of knowledge? Lack of consistency? Identify it. Because what you don't name, you can't change. And what you don't change, repeats. Now turn that into a practical decision. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. One adjustment. One change. One concrete action. Because that's how great trajectories begin. Small decisions executed consistently. Andrew Carnegie didn't change his life in a single moment. He changed his pattern. And that changed everything. And now, the decision is yours. Continue pushing money away without realizing it. Or become, starting today, someone that money respects, stays with, and multiplies. If this made sense to you, don't ignore it. Reflect. Apply. And most importantly, sustain it. Because in the end, it's not what you know that changes your life. It's what you do, repeatedly. And your next decision might be exactly the beginning of everything.